This is lesson 4D, and in this lesson we're going to talk primarily about energy organelles. So we're going to talk about the organelles inside of a cell that make the energy for the cell. So we're really only going to cover two organelles today, the chloroplasts and the mitochondria. But we're going to go into a lot of detail, so you should know the structure of them. You should be able to draw them. At the end of this lecture, I would make sure that you can kind of sketch them on a sheet of paper so that you know the general structure of chloroplasts and mitochondria. Okay, so that's where we're going. Life is only possible because we have energy. So without energy, life would not be possible. Chloroplasts and mitochondria are the two organelles that are responsible for generating energy for the cell, or converting energy to a usable form. So they both do things a little differently, and we'll talk about how they work. But the primary thing is either getting energy into a usable form or turning that usable form into energy. So our first organelle that we're going to look at is the chloroplast, and we'll go into detail on the anatomy in just a second. But let's start off with a little bit. Chloroplasts are the organelle responsible for photosynthesis. So chloroplasts have a job, and their job is to take sunlight and to convert it into sugar. Take sunlight and convert it into sugar. And they're very specialized to allow themselves to do that. They have lots of specialized little parts that make it possible for them to take sunlight and turn it into energy. So their parts, their anatomy looks like this. They have an outer membrane. They actually have two layers of membranes. So they have an outer membrane here, and then they also have an inner membrane here. And in between those two membranes, we have an inner membrane space. Most of the anatomy is inside of the inner membrane, and inside the inner membrane, it's filled with fluid, and that fluid is called stroma. And then inside, in the stroma, there are these flattened stacks of, I think they look like pancakes to me, but they're these flattened membrane stacks, and those flattened membrane stacks are called granum. One individual stack, one little individual flattened pancake, though, is called a thylakoid. So inside here we have stroma, these stacks of thylakoids, and those stacks of thylakoids are called granum. So that's the anatomy of a chloroplast. So there's some information for you. We have thylakoids, granum, stroma are the things that you really need to know. Okay, and our last organelle here, once again, really short lesson today, are the mitochondria. And the mitochondria sort of have some similarities. They have, before we get into that, let's talk about this. They are the organelle responsible for cellular respiration. They are going to take glucose and generate ATP from it. So they're going to take glucose, generate ATP. Actually, they don't take glucose, they take something else, and we'll learn about that when we talk about cellular respiration. But for the main part, glucose is turned into energy. So right here, the anatomy of a mitochondria looks like this. Once again, there are two membranes. So mitochondria have this outer membrane, this general membrane that wraps around the outside of it. And then on the inside, it has an inner membrane. And this inner membrane has a whole bunch of folds in it. A whole bunch of different little folds. And those folds we give a special name to. Those folds we call cristae. So cristae are folds in the inner membrane. In between the two membranes, we have another inner membrane space. And then inside of the inner membrane, just like the stroma, or just like the chloroplast, the mitochondria is filled with fluid as well. And that fluid we give the name matrix. So fluid inside the mitochondria is called the matrix. That's the anatomy of a mitochondria. These folds in the cristae are really important. A lot of important reactions happen on the membrane. And so with a lot of folds, it allows it to have more membrane, more surface area in relation to its volume. So very important. Here's a really good chart for you. So here's parts of the mitochondria, their description, what they are, and what function they have. I may pause it right now and record this down. Very important information for you. That's actually going to be the end of this lesson. So that's the end of lesson 4D. If you have any questions, please come up and ask me. But otherwise, have a good day.